Well, good morning. We are going to draw a tree. So, how do you draw a tree? They look so complicated, but if you break it down into shapes, actually, it's not too bad. This tree I thought was really interesting, and I thought it would be a really good example of what we're talking about. So, how do we break this guy down into shapes? I'm gonna start just by on a single layer. Actually, what I'm going to do is I will start this just by drawing a box. And the brush that I'm using is from my custom brush pack. This is just the Jeff's 6B pencil. You can find more information about these custom brushes in the link down below. They're very cool and I like them a lot. I think you will enjoy them as well. So drawing this tree, we're going to start just by making a little square here. This is going to be like just our guidelines. We want to keep the tree inside of this little box. And actually, you can do this kind of exercise with a lot of different things. So the way that I would approach this next is let's start with the root of the tree, the main section of the tree coming up, and it's making like this little swirling pattern, and we're just gonna break it into basic shapes. You don't have to be exact, and if it's not exact, that's totally okay. It's just gonna look very stylized, and that's kind of what we want. So we'll get our little swoosh here and just kind of fill it in with some basic texture, right? And then, like, already that's looking pretty good. We can get a little more character here, and we're just using the reference as like a guide. We don't have to follow it exact, right? I think that I see, like, you could get really lost in the details and kind of draw all these little branches in here, which we're not really gonna do that. So we're just gonna leave it at this. Let's fill these in a little bit, just a few basic branches, and fill this section in a bit more. And then with the leaves, there are many artists out there, and I was one of them. Just starting out, when you look at a tree, it is extremely intimidating, especially when it comes to the leaves. Like, what do you do with all of those leaves? Well, the secret is you don't draw them, right? So here's what we're gonna do. That top section, especially with this tree, is very, it really is very rounded. Like, it's like a square with rounded corners, and it kind of comes down like it has this angle about here. So we're gonna keep it inside of our box, and we're just going to round out the edges here. And I'll show you what I mean by we don't draw the leaves. A lot about drawing or painting or digital painting is giving the impression of something and not necessarily drawing every single leaf or every single detail. So we're just going to start by building that basic shape here. Okay, and that's going to be all right for this exercise. If I was doing this, obviously with this YouTube video, we are limited on time. I would put a bit more detail into this, kind of getting the edges, but here's what we're going to do. We are going to create a mask, and I want my black because this is where we paint black, it will disappear. So we're going to take this shape where all of the leaves are, and if you notice here in our reference, there are places where you can see through the tree. You can see through the branches and the leaves, and that's what I'm gonna do here with this section. And I'll just go through and do this really quickly. Basically, I'm painting in the transparent parts of this image. And I'm going to leave it pretty rough because this is not, leaves are not perfect, they are not evenly spaced, and we're going to just create the impression that there are spaces in this big green shape that hopefully by the time we are done, it's going to read like a tree. That's the idea. So we're just painting in a bunch of transparency, a bunch of empty spaces here. And I might even make my brush a little bit bigger because I want to go a little faster here. So we're just carving out these shapes. And then I think this area is kind of a bit larger than what I'm painting. And it doesn't have to be exact, we're just getting the impression here. That's what we're doing. So there's some empty spaces here. And then kind of roughen up the edges up over here. Okay, that might have to do. Yeah, that might have to do. And then what I will do is, if I feel good about the mask, which I do for this exercise, I will go in and just tap on the layer and merge the mask, and that will free up an additional layer that I can use later if I need to. And then I will create a new one, make that a clipping mask to my leaves, and I think I might leave it on the normal blending mode. And I'm going to grab, I have this brush here, my grit pencil that I really like, and I will grab a darker color. Let's go this one. And so we can see from this side here, I don't have my brush. The light is coming in from an angle here from the top right side of this tree and a little bit forward on the tree. So we're going to use this dark color here on our clipping mask layer and paint in just some shadows on this side. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect either. We're gonna go back over it. We're just loosely blocking in some shading. And then I'll go back to my regular green. And I'll sometimes I'll go back and forth painting in these colors, painting in the lights and shadows until I get something that I'm happy with. And then I'll grab a lighter color and paint in more of these highlights here coming in the right side. Right. And now this kind of looks like a blobby mess, but we're gonna fix it here in a little bit. So what I like to do is create another layer. Do I want a clipping mask on this one? I think yes. Let's do a clipping mask, and we'll keep it contained to that green shape. And I will go back to, let's do this golden raven wing. And we will grab this green color here, so it's a little bit different. And then you just kind of draw, let's make it maybe multiply. Let's see what this does. And just kind of add little random shapes here along the shading side. And already, like, we're just kind of adding the impression of little leaves here along the side here with the shading. And I think what I will do afterwards, this is looking a little darker than I would like. So what I'm going to do is I'll just pull this opacity. Yeah, already that's looking better. I'm going to pull it down to maybe 40%. Let's do that. We will hide our box layer because we don't need that anymore. And then I will go back with another clipping mask and switch the blending mode to add. And I already know, because I've used this blending mode quite a bit, add is pretty intense. So I'll pull that opacity down, and I may even, I think I may even need to pull it down a bit more. But I'll do the same thing here with these highlights and just kind of give the impression of these leaves. No, this might be all right, actually. That looks pretty all right. All right, yeah, let me pull it down a little bit. Maybe 20%. All right, so we're gonna go back to our tree trunk and do the clipping mask, and the same that we've kind of been doing with the leaves. Let me grab my grit pencil here because I want to add some texture, and there's obviously some shading up in here where the leaves are. And if we go back to our reference, the tree is pretty twisted. So we'll add some shading here and along the edge and just a little bit along the bottom. And already that's pretty good. We'll get a darker color and kind of reinforce that shading. And then I will do one more clipping mask on a multiply, and let's go to Jeff's Fine pencil. And what I'll do is just add, this is very cool. We'll add some lines here that show how is this tree twisting. Zoom. You gotta have the sound effects. And we'll just add some texture here. There we go. And already that's looking pretty good. Like, it's not perfect. We'll add another clipping mask here, and we'll keep it on the normal mode. And I've got this pencil here, Jeff's Grainy pencil, and I'm going to add just a little bit of highlights up around here. And you can see that if we spend a bit more time on this, just going back and adding details where we need, you can use this technique to basically draw like anything that you see. Just break it down into basic shapes first. Even the most complicated subjects, you can break it down into basic shapes and get a pretty good, a pretty solid representation of what that thing is. Unless your goal is to, I mean, even if your goal is to create a photorealistic representation of that thing, breaking it down into shapes helps organize that information. So there we have it. There's a tree in just a few minutes. And if we spent more time on it, there would be a lot more detail, but that's the basic exercise. And I hope that you enjoyed this. Like, you can see if we add, let's change the background color. Ta-da, there's a sky, right? And we'll add one more layer here and grab maybe an orange. And let's do, oh, maybe a colored pencil, my color pencil. And we'll just add some background where this tree is sitting, right? There we go. So I hope that's helpful for you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed this. If there's anything else that you would like to see, any tips or tricks or any questions about art or creativity in general, let me know in the comments. I'm gonna be checking that out, and we'll see you in the next video.